protest outside the White House. Anguish sparked in Minnesota over George Floyd's death reached the president's doorstep Friday night, hours after he expressed sympathies expected from a president.
I understand the hurt. I understand the pain. People have really been through a lot. The family of George is entitled to justice, and the people of Minnesota are entitled to live in safety.
But President Trump's earlier social media comments had also been predictably contentious amid a volatile situation and prompted a warning from Twitter. He had referred to protesters as thugs and wrote, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." But the president claimed no awareness of that expression's link to 1960s racial unrest, then used by a Miami police chief who wielded tough tactics in black communities.
I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it originated. I wouldn't know a thing like that.
Still defending his word choice.
It's very accurate in the sense that when you do have looting, like you had last night, people often get shot and they die, and that's not good, and we don't want that to happen.
He spoke of Floyd's suffering.
Just a terrible thing. He was in tremendous pain, obviously, and couldn't breathe.
Former President Barack Obama weighed in, urging Americans to step up. It falls on all of us to work together to create a new normal in which the legacy of bigotry and unequal treatment no longer infects our institutions or our hearts. President Trump said demonstrations are warranted but should remain safe.
It should be a peaceful protest. I think really in memory of George Floyd, I think it should be peaceful.
A tanker truck drove into thousands of protesters on a closed interstate freeway near Minneapolis on Sunday, one of the latest outbursts of violence among wider U.S. demonstrations against police brutality. It did not appear that any demonstrators were struck by the truck as it moved through the crowd. A Reuters witness and authorities said the driver was then pulled out of the cab and beaten by protesters before the man was taken to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The truck incident came before major U.S. cities imposed curfews in fear of the nationwide protests spiraling into violence as night fell. The Minneapolis Department of Public Safety said on Twitter that video of the truck was, quote, very disturbing, and they confirmed that the man was under arrest. They also said the video showed the driver, quote, inciting a crowd of peaceful demonstrators. Video showed the truck had a logo on its side for Keenan Advantage Group, an Ohio-based transportation company. The company said in a statement that it would be cooperating with investigating authorities. The incident is being investigated as a criminal matter and marks the latest outburst of violence following what began as peaceful demonstrations over the death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man who died last Monday after a white Minneapolis police officer knelt on his neck.
Yeah, hello guys, welcome to another episode on Kish TV. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to also give us a thumbs up if you like this video. We are still on the case of George Floyd, and news on CNN showing that truck driver ran through a crowd of people, of protesters, whilst having a peaceful protest in New York, and also there have been escalation of protesters between.
The situation here in Santa Monica, California is very fluid. You can see police here now firing tear gas into the crowd. They are trying to push these folks back. Earlier today, just a few blocks away, there was looting underway nearby. Police seem to have had enough.
The nation erupted into scenes of chaos, violence, and widespread destruction into the early morning hours. Dozens of American cities up in flames after some protests turned into riots, often followed by looting as a nation simmering with unrest unraveled.
How long can you be peaceful when your people are dying?
In Los Angeles, hours before a curfew was ordered, the city became a war zone. After attempting to breach television studios, large groups torched police cruisers as officers fired back with rubber bullets. Before nightfall, the looting began. Department stores, jewelers, and high-end apparel shops trashed by unruly mobs. The mayor calling on the governor to dispatch the National Guard for the first time since the Rodney King riots in 1992. strikingly similar scenes and issues of injustice, 28 years apart.
We've seen this before in Los Angeles. When the violence escalates, no one wins.
After 3 nights of protest and violence, the state of emergency in Los Angeles mirrored by pockets of anarchy nationwide, described as all hell breaking loose in Seattle when police lost control of downtown, crowds destroyed, then took over their vehicles. This video capturing one man removing a high-powered police rifle before a plainclothes security guard disarmed the man, clearing the magazine. But there was also troubling scenes caught on camera at the hands of police. This video appearing to show an officer putting his knee on the neck of someone taken into custody before another officer pulls his leg off. A shocking scene after the death of George Floyd, why so many poured into the streets.
We can't peacefully protest in the streets without getting tear gas thrown at us for what?
With demonstrators out in force again today, a violent takedown in Philadelphia, where a Foot Locker was looted after more than a dozen officers were injured there last night. With tear gas choking the streets of Miami, police battled protesters to keep control of their headquarters. With banks burned, highways shut down, and City Hall on fire in Nashville, there was more than 1,000 arrests. In Salt Lake City, police have identified this man who may have fired arrows into a crowd from a crossbow before he was mobbed by a nearby group. In Tallahassee, Florida, someone drove through a protest after their pickup truck was surrounded by a crowd. The National Guard is moving into Chicago after clashes between protesters and police.
In this city, we care for each other. This is a time for us to unite.
Tonight, a nation on edge and up in smoke as many plead for peace in the wake of yet another violent night.
The cat and mouse game here in Santa Monica continues. You can see police are ready to move in on all these protesters again. The curfew starts in less than 30 minutes. Scenes like this are playing out all across the nation as the National Guard moves in.
Hello guys, thank you. We are still following up on the case. We'll give up all the updates we get from this case. We're still on the follow up to see whether Black Lives Matter, what is going to be done about this case, whether justice is going to be served to George Floyd. We are still on this case, so please make sure to subscribe to this channel. Give us a thumbs up. Also, comment on the section below, and please share these videos to your friends so that they will join in the fight against brutality against black people. Thank you.